The cold was the first thing I felt, not the cold of winter air or an autumn breeze but the cold of death itself. It seeped into my bones, wrapped around my heart and pulled me down into darkness. I remember Noah's face above me, eerily calm as he drove the knife into my chest again and again. His voice, soft and almost tender, whispered those final words, "Till death do us part, Vincent. This is the only divorce you'll ever get from me." My blood pooled beneath me on the marble floor of our pristine living room, the room where we'd once celebrated our first anniversary, where I'd believed we were building a life together. The irony wasn't lost on me, even as my consciousness faded. I'd given this man everything, my trust, my body, my unconditional love. And he'd repaid me with lies, disease, and ultimately murder. As darkness claimed me, I didn't pray for survival. I prayed for justice, for truth, for a chance to make things right. When I opened my eyes again, I was in our bedroom. Our bedroom, the one I'd left 2 years ago when I'd finally worked up the courage to move to the guest room. Sunlight streamed through the curtains I'd personally chosen, falling across the California king bed where Noah still slept beside me, his face peaceful in sleep. My heart hammered against my ribs. I sat up slowly, my hands trembling as I reached for my phone on the nightstand. The date glowed back at me, September 15th, 2 years before my death. 2 years before everything fell apart. 2 years to change my fate. I pressed my hand over my mouth to stifle the sob that threatened to escape. I was alive. Somehow, impossibly, I'd been given a second chance. But this time I wouldn't be the fool. This time I would be smart, strategic, patient. Noah stirred beside me, his arm reaching out instinctively to pull me close, a gesture that once would have filled me with warmth but now made my skin crawl. I forced myself to relax into his embrace, to press a kiss to his bare shoulder the way I used to. "Good morning, love," Noah murmured, his voice still rough with sleep. His hand traced lazy circles on my hip. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep," I lied smoothly, turning in his arms to face him. Noah Archer was devastatingly handsome, sharp jawline, intense dark eyes, perfectly styled black hair even first thing in the morning. He was the type of man people stopped to look at on the street. He'd been my greatest blessing, I'd once thought. Now I knew he was my curse. Bad dreams? He cupped my face with one hand, thumb stroking my cheekbone with practiced tenderness. Something like that. I managed a small smile, the kind that showed vulnerability, the kind Noah always responded to. "Just hold me for a bit?" "Always," he promised, pulling me against his chest. Liar. The word echoed in my mind, but I kept my expression soft and loving. I had work to do and I couldn't afford to tip my hand too early. In my previous life, I hadn't discovered Noah's affair until the STD diagnosis. By then it had been too late. My reputation destroyed, my evidence insufficient, my spirit broken. Not this time. As Noah's breathing evened out and he drifted back to sleep, I carefully extracted myself from his embrace. In the bathroom I stared at my reflection. At 32, I looked younger than I had at 34 when I'd died. The stress lines were less pronounced, my eyes brighter. My dark blonde hair was slightly longer, touching my shoulders the way Noah liked it. I'd cut it short in defiance before the end. I gripped the edge of the marble sink, knuckles white. "You can do this," I whispered to my reflection. "You're not the naive fool you were before. You know the truth now. Use it." The next few weeks were perhaps the most difficult of my life. Both lives, actually. I had to become the perfect husband again, the man Noah had manipulated so effortlessly before. Every kiss felt like poison. Every touch was a violation I had to endure with a smile. But I was no longer doing it out of love. I was doing it out of strategy. My first objective was simple: avoid intimacy as much as possible without raising suspicion. Noah had infected me with an STD sometime in the next 3 months. I couldn't remember the exact date, but I knew it happened before the holidays. I needed to prevent that while gathering evidence of his affair. "Noah, I've been feeling off lately," I mentioned one morning over breakfast, carefully buttering my toast. "I think I might need to see a doctor. Maybe we should be careful until I know what's going on." Noah looked up from his tablet, where he'd been reviewing documents for his position as chief financial officer at Archer Enterprises, his family's company. "Careful how?" "You know, intimate activities." I kept my tone apologetic, worried. "I don't want to risk passing anything to you if I'm coming down with something." His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, a tell I'd learned to read in my previous life. "Vincent, you're probably just stressed. You don't need to be so dramatic." "I'm not being dramatic," I said softly, reaching across the table to take his hand. "I just want to protect you. Protect us. Isn't that what marriage is about? The words nearly choked me, but I delivered them perfectly. Noah's expression softened, though I could see the calculation behind his eyes. You're right. I'm sorry, love. Of course we'll be careful. Your health comes first. He was lying, of course. He didn't care about my health. He probably saw this as more time to spend with Frederick without having to make excuses for why he was too tired for me. Frederick Castellano, Noah's first love, the one he'd never gotten over. In my previous life I'd been so trusting, so blind. Noah had told me Frederick was just an old friend, someone from college who'd moved back to the city. I'd even welcomed Frederick into our home, had dinner with him, laughed at his jokes. I'd had no idea they were sleeping together in hotel rooms during Noah's late nights at the office. This time I would know everything. That afternoon while Noah was at work I went shopping. Not for groceries or household items, but for surveillance equipment. The store was discreet, tucked away in a part of town I'd never normally visit. The owner, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes, didn't ask questions when I purchased 5 microcameras with audio recording capabilities, each no bigger than a button. Clothing attachment or surface mount? She asked in a bored tone. Clothing, I replied. They need to be completely undetectable. She nodded, boxing them up with practiced efficiency. Battery life is about 48 hours per charge. They'll sync to this app on your phone. She handed me a card with download instructions. Encrypted storage. Admissible in court if you need it. Thank you, I said quietly, paying in cash. That evening, while Noah showered, I carefully attached the first camera to the inside of his favorite suit jacket, the Armani he wore to important meetings. It was hidden in the lining, positioned to capture audio and video of whoever he was facing. Over the next week, I planted the others in various garments, his gym bag, his coat, even his briefcase. Then I waited. The footage I collected over the following month was devastating, even though I'd already known the truth. Watching it unfold in real time, hearing Noah's voice filled with genuine affection as he spoke to Frederick, affection he'd never truly had for me, it reopened wounds I'd thought going back in time would have healed. I can't wait until Vincent goes on that work trip to Seattle. Noah's voice came through the audio, clear and excited. 3 days with you just like old times. Frederick's laugh followed, warm and intimate. Your husband suspects nothing? Vincent? Please. He's so desperate to believe in our perfect marriage, he'd ignore a billboard announcing our affair. The man is pathetically devoted. I sat in my car in the parking garage of a shopping center, phone in hand, tears streaming down my face as I listened. Even knowing it was coming, even having heard worse in my previous life, it still hurt. God, it still hurt so much. But I didn't allow myself to break. Not completely. Instead, I carefully saved the file, backed it up to 3 different cloud accounts and continued watching. The camera captured everything. Stolen kisses in parking garages, meetings at expensive hotels, Frederick's hands on Noah's body in ways I'd once thought were reserved only for me. And through it all, Noah's voice, so loving with Frederick, so cold when he spoke about me. How much longer are you going to stay married to him? Frederick asked one day, the two of them lying in a hotel bed, Noah tracing patterns on Frederick's bare chest. As long as I need to, Noah replied. Divorce would destroy my image. The shareholders, my family, they expect stability. Vincent serves his purpose. And what purpose is that? He's convenient. Handles the house, attends the charity functions, plays the perfect corporate spouse. And he comes from old money, that connection has been useful. My family's money. The inheritance from my parents who died when I was 23. The trust fund Noah had convinced me to give him access to for investment purposes. Money that had mysteriously dwindled over the years of our marriage. I added financial investigation to my mental checklist. But the worst was yet to come. 2 months into my surveillance, I captured the moment that had destroyed my previous life. Noah in a medical clinic receiving his diagnosis. Mr. Archer, your test results show you've contracted chlamydia. The doctor's voice was professional but concerned. It's treatable with antibiotics, but we need to discuss your partners. Anyone you've been intimate with needs to be informed and treated as well. Noah was silent for a long moment. Then, can it be treated without symptoms? Well, yes, many people are asymptomatic, but then there's no need to inform anyone. I'll take the treatment. What my partners don't know won't hurt them. Mr. Archer, that's doctor-patient confidentiality, correct? I'll take my prescription and be on my way. I listened to this recording 5 times, my hands shaking with rage. Noah had known. He'd known he was infected and had deliberately hidden it from me, had continued to pressure me for intimacy, would have infected me without a second thought. This wasn't just betrayal. This was biological assault. But I had the proof now. Audio, video, timestamps, location data. Noah had signed his own confession and he didn't even know it. 3 months into my second chance at life, Noah began to push harder for intimacy. My excuses were wearing thin, and his frustration was growing more obvious. "Vincent, this is ridiculous," he snapped one evening after I'd deflected another advance. "You've been to 3 different doctors. They've all said you're fine. What's really going on?" We were in our bedroom and I was changing into pajamas, deliberately choosing the least attractive option I owned, old flannel pants and an oversized t-shirt. "I'm just not in the mood lately. I'm sorry if that frustrates you." "Frustrates me?" Noah's voice rose. "We haven't had sex in 3 months. Are you having an affair? Is that what this is?" The accusation was so absurd, so perfectly hypocritical that I almost laughed. Instead, I turned to face him, carefully arranging my expression into hurt confusion. "How could you even ask me that? I would never. Noah, you know I love you." "Then prove it." He crossed the room, grabbing my wrist. His grip was tight, just shy of painful. "Stop making excuses and be a proper husband." This was new. In my previous life, I'd given in to his pressures, had tried so hard to maintain intimacy even as I'd felt our connection dying. I thought it was my fault, that I needed to try harder, be better, be more desirable. Now I knew better. "Let go of me," I said quietly, fear genuine in my voice. I'd prepared for this possibility, but the reality of it was still terrifying. "You're hurting me." "I'm hurting you?" Noah's laugh was bitter. "You've been rejecting me for months. Do you have any idea how humiliating that is? My own husband treating me like I'm diseased." The irony was not lost on me. "When all I want is to feel close to you again. Is that so wrong?" This was the moment. I'd been preparing for it, had a body camera hidden in the bookshelf behind us, recording everything. I just needed him to escalate a little more to show his true nature. "Noah, I'm tired. Can we please just go to sleep?" "No." His grip on my wrist tightened. "We're going to fix this. Now." He pushed me backward onto the bed and panic flared in my chest. Real, genuine panic, because even though I'd survived worse in my previous life, even though I'd planned for this, my body remembered trauma. It remembered pain. "Stop," I said firmly, trying to keep my voice steady. "I don't consent to this, Noah. Let me go. You're my husband. You don't get to withhold consent." That statement, recorded in perfect clarity, would be another nail in his coffin. But in the moment it was terrifying. Noah was larger than me, stronger, and the look in his eyes was one I'd seen before, right before the end. I did the only thing I could think of. I need him in the groin. Noah doubled over with a grunt of pain, releasing me. I scrambled off the bed, putting distance between us. My heart hammered in my chest, adrenaline making my hands shake. "You bitch," Noah snarled, face contorted with rage and pain. "You fucking bitch. Get out," I said, surprised by how steady my voice was. "Get out of this room right now or I'm calling the police. This is my house. It's our house. Jointly owned. And if you don't leave this bedroom right now, I will call 911 and report attempted sexual assault. Do you really want that scandal, Noah? What would the shareholders think?" For a moment I thought he might actually attack me. His hands clenched into fists, his jaw tight with fury. But then calculation crept back into his eyes, the careful consideration of consequences that had always governed his actions. "This isn't over," he said coldly before turning and storming out of the room. I locked the door behind him, then collapsed against it, sliding down to the floor as my legs gave out. My whole body trembled with aftershock, tears streaming down my face. Even prepared, even knowing it was coming, it had been horrible. Violating. Traumatic. But I had the recording. Clear, undeniable evidence of attempted assault. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and sent a single text to the lawyer I'd carefully researched and contacted 2 weeks prior. "It's time. I need your help." The response came within minutes. "I'll file first thing tomorrow morning. Come to my office at 9 a.m. You're going to be okay, Vincent. I promise." I closed my eyes, holding the phone against my chest, and allowed myself a moment of relief. Then I got to work, systematically downloading every piece of evidence I'd collected, organizing it into clear files, preparing for war. Noah thought he controlled this narrative. He thought I was weak, pathetic, easy to manipulate. He was about to learn how wrong he'd been. Malcolm Stone's office was located in a high-rise downtown, all glass and steel with a view that overlooked the city. I arrived exactly at 9 a.m., dressed in conservative clothing, a navy sweater and dark jeans, with a flash drive containing my evidence clutched in one hand. The receptionist, a kind-looking woman in her 50s, smiled warmly at me. "Mr. Hunter? Mr. Stone is expecting you. Right this way." She led me down a hallway lined with law degrees and awards. Malcolm Stone, it seemed, was very good at what he did, and knocked on a heavy wooden door before opening it. "Vincent Hunter is here, sir." "Send him in." "Thank you, Patricia." I stepped into the office and my breath caught slightly. I'd spoken to Malcolm on the phone, had researched him extensively online, but seeing him in person was different. He was perhaps 40, with silver threading through his dark hair, sharp blue eyes behind rectangular glasses, and an air of competent authority that immediately put me at ease. He stood from behind his desk, extending a hand. "Mr. Hunter. I'm Malcolm Stone. Please have a seat." His handshake was firm but not aggressive, warm but professional. I sat in one of the leather chairs across from his desk, trying to calm my racing heart. "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice," I began. "Given what you've told me about your situation, this couldn't wait." Malcolm settled back into his chair, his full attention on me. "Now, you mentioned you have evidence of adultery, assault, and financial crimes. Let's start from the beginning. Tell me everything." So I did. For the next 2 hours, I laid out the entire story. Noah's affair, the STD, the gaslighting, the way he'd stolen from his company and blamed me in my previous timeline. And then I told him the truth, that I'd died, that I'd come back, that I'd spent 3 months gathering evidence of crimes that hadn't technically happened yet in this timeline. I expected skepticism, disbelief, maybe even for him to suggest psychiatric evaluation. Instead, Malcolm leaned forward, elbows on his desk, eyes intense. "I don't need to understand how you knew to gather this evidence, Vincent. I only need to know if the evidence itself is legitimate. Everything on this drive, it's real? Obtained legally?" "Yes," I said firmly. "The cameras were placed on my husband's personal items. One-party consent laws in this state mean I'm legally allowed to record conversations I'm part of or in my own home. The financial documents I accessed from our joint accounts. Everything is admissible." Malcolm plugged the flash drive into his computer and began reviewing the files. His expression remained professionally neutral, but I saw the tightening of his jaw, the flash of anger in his eyes when he watched the assault footage. "This is airtight," he said finally, turning back to me. "Vincent, with this evidence we can not only get you a divorce, we can destroy him. Adultery, attempted assault, deliberate disease transmission, embezzlement. Noah Archer will face both civil and criminal charges." "Good," I said quietly. "That's what I want. I want him to face consequences for everything he's done." Malcolm studied me for a long moment. "Most people in your situation just want out. They want the divorce finalized quickly and quietly. You want justice. May I ask why?" "Because if I don't stop him, he'll do this to someone else," I replied. The truth of my death hovered on my tongue, but I held it back. Noah is a predator. He uses people, infects them, destroys their reputations when they try to leave. Someone has to stop him. And that someone is you." "Yes." Malcolm nodded slowly, then closed the laptop. "All right. Here's what we're going to do. First, I'm filing for a restraining order based on last night's assault. The recording is clear evidence of attempted rape. Yes, that's what we're calling it because that's what it was. The restraining order will force Noah out of your shared home and prevent him from contacting you. He'll fight it. Let him. With this evidence, no judge will deny it. Second, I'm filing for divorce on grounds of adultery, abuse, and irreconcilable differences. Given the circumstances, you'll likely receive a favorable settlement, possibly the house, significant alimony, and division of assets weighted in your favor." "I don't want his money," I interrupted. "I just want free." "You're entitled to compensation for what he's put you through," Malcolm said gently. "But if you'd prefer a clean break, we can negotiate that. Third, and most importantly, we're going to the police. This footage of him deliberately concealing his STD status and continuing to pressure you for intimacy constitutes a crime in this state. So does the assault. And if my suspicions about the financial irregularities are correct, we'll be adding embezzlement to the list." Relief flooded through me so intensely I felt dizzy. "You believe me? You're actually going to help me?" Malcolm's expression softened slightly. "Vincent, I've been practicing family law for 15 years. I've seen every kind of manipulation, abuse, and betrayal imaginable. Your case is unique in its scope of evidence, but the pattern of behavior is unfortunately familiar. Yes, I believe you. And yes, I'm going to help you. You deserve justice." Something in his tone, in the way he looked at me with genuine compassion rather than pity, made my carefully maintained composure crack. Tears spilled down my cheeks before I could stop them. "I'm sorry," I managed, wiping at my face. "I thought I could hold it together." "Don't apologize." Malcolm pulled a box of tissues from his desk drawer, offering them to me. "You've been living in a nightmare, playing a role for 3 months to protect yourself. You're allowed to feel everything you're feeling." I took the tissues gratefully, trying to compose myself. "What happens next?" "Next, you go home and pack a bag. Once the restraining order is issued, which should be by end of business today, Noah will be served and removed from the property. You'll have police presence to ensure your safety during the transition. Then we move forward with the divorce proceedings and criminal charges." "He's going to be furious." "He's going to be arrested," Malcolm corrected. "His fury won't matter. Vincent, I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" I looked at this man who was essentially a stranger, who had no reason to believe my strange story but had chosen to help me anyway, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years: hope. "Yes," I whispered. "I trust you." "Good." Malcolm stood, extending his hand again. "Then let's get you free." The restraining order was issued at 4:47 p.m. that same day. I received the notification from Malcolm via text while I was sitting in a coffee shop 3 blocks from Noah's office building. I'd been afraid to go home, afraid Noah might have somehow found out what I was planning. Restraining order approved. Police will serve Noah at his office at 5 p.m. They'll escort him to collect necessary items from the house, then enforce his removal. You can return home at 6 p.m. I'll meet you there. My hands shook as I read the message. It was really happening. After everything, after death and rebirth and months of careful planning, I was finally getting free. At 5:15 p.m. my phone rang. Noah's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. And again. By the 10th call, I turned my phone off entirely. At 6 p.m. sharp, I pulled into our driveway to find Malcolm's sleek black sedan already parked outside, along with a police cruiser. My heart hammered as I got out of my car and walked to the front door, where Malcolm stood waiting. "The police finished the sweep," he explained as I approached. "Noah collected some clothing and personal items. He's been formally served with the restraining order and informed of the parameters. No contact, must stay at least 500 yards away from you in this property. He's also been informed that violations will result in immediate arrest." How did he react? I couldn't help asking. Malcolm's expression was grim. "About how you'd expect. Threats, accusations, claims that you're lying." The officers had to physically restrain him at one point. "Vincent, I want you to be very careful over the next few weeks. Men like Noah don't take rejection well, and you've just publicly humiliated him." "I know," I said softly. "I remember." That earned me a searching look, but Malcolm didn't press. Instead, he gestured to the house. "Would you like me to come in with you? Make sure everything is secure?" "Please." We walked through the house together, Malcolm maintaining a respectful distance while I checked each room. Noah had taken clothes, his laptop, some personal items. He'd also, I noticed with a cold smile, smashed several picture frames, our wedding photos, anniversary pictures, images of us looking happy together. Good. Let him be angry. Let him rage. It changed nothing. "The locks have been changed," Malcolm informed me, handing me a new set of keys. "Security system has been reset with a new code, 1031. October 31st. Your birthday you mentioned." I was surprised he'd remembered that detail from our initial consultation. "Thank you. I've also taken the liberty of arranging for a security company to install additional cameras and motion sensors around the property. They'll be here tomorrow morning at 9. I want you protected, Vincent." The way he said my name, with genuine concern rather than the false affection Noah had always used, made something warm unfold in my chest. "You don't have to do all this," I said quietly. "Yes, I do." Malcolm met my eyes directly. "You're my client, and more than that, you're someone who's been through hell and deserves safety. Let me help you." I nodded, not trusting my voice. Malcolm lingered a moment longer, as if reluctant to leave me alone, before finally heading toward the door. "Malcolm?" I called after him. He turned back. "Yes. Thank you. For believing me. For helping me. For everything." His expression softened in a way I suspected he didn't allow often. "You're welcome, Vincent. Call me if you need anything, and I mean anything. Day or night. I gave you my personal cell number for a reason." After he left, I stood in the silent house, truly my house now, no longer shared with my abuser, and let out a long, shuddering breath. Phase 1 was complete. Now came the hard part. The divorce proceedings, the criminal charges, and the inevitable public battle. But I wasn't alone anymore. I had Malcolm on my side, and somehow that made all the difference. The news broke 3 days later, though not from any source I'd intended. I was in Malcolm's office reviewing divorce paperwork when his assistant burst in without knocking, a breach of protocol that immediately signaled trouble. "Sir, you need to see this. It's trending on every social media platform." Malcolm took the tablet she offered, and I watched his expression darken as he read. He turned the screen toward me without a word. Noah had gone to the media. Vincent Hunter, the truth behind the lies, screamed the headline of an article posted to his company's official blog. Below it was a carefully crafted statement painting me as an unfaithful, mentally unstable spouse who'd invented abuse allegations to cover my own infidelity. "I'm heartbroken to share that my husband, Vincent Hunter, has been carrying on an affair for months. When I discovered his betrayal and confronted him, he became violent and vindictive. The restraining order he's obtained is based entirely on fabricated evidence and manipulated recordings. I'm currently working with my legal team to clear my name and expose the truth about Vincent's affair and the sexually transmitted disease he brought into our marriage." I read it twice, my hands steady even as fury burned through me. This was exactly what he'd done in my previous life. Twisted the narrative, made himself the victim, destroyed my credibility before I could defend myself. But this time I had something I hadn't had before: proof. "He just made a critical mistake," Malcolm said quietly, his voice deadly calm. "He's now made public, defamatory statements that we can definitively disprove. Vincent, I think it's time we went public with your story, the real story." "How?" I asked. "A press conference. We release strategic portions of your evidence, let the media and public opinion do the work for us. But I need your consent. Once we do this, there's no going back. Your private life becomes public knowledge." I thought of my previous death, of Noah standing over me with blood on his hands, promising that I'd never be free of him. I thought of all the people he'd manipulate in the future if I didn't stop him now. "Let's do it," I said. "I'm done hiding." The press conference was scheduled for 2 days later at a downtown hotel. Malcolm's firm had connections with several major news outlets, and word spread quickly. Vincent Hunter, the man at the center of the Archer scandal, was going to speak publicly. The night before I couldn't sleep. I sat in my kitchen with tea growing cold in front of me, rehearsing the statement Malcolm and I had prepared together. It was honest, direct, and backed by undeniable evidence. My phone rang at 11 p.m. Malcolm's name appeared on the screen. "You should be sleeping," I said by way of greeting. "So should you," he replied, and I could hear the smile in his voice. "But I figured you were probably awake worrying." "How did you know?" "Because I would be, if I were in your position. Vincent, I want you to know something before tomorrow. No matter what happens, no matter how Noah tries to spin this, you've already won. You survived. You fought back. You refused to let him destroy you. That takes incredible courage." My throat tightened. I don't feel very courageous. I feel terrified. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. Malcolm paused. "I'll be right there with you tomorrow. You won't be facing this alone." "Why are you doing all this?" I asked softly. "I'm just another client." "No," Malcolm said firmly. "You're not. From the moment you walked into my office, from the moment I saw how much strength it took you to tell your story, Vincent, you're not just another client. You're someone who deserves every bit of support and protection I can provide." The words wrapped around my heart like a warm blanket. "Thank you, Malcolm. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we change everything." The hotel conference room was packed. Cameras from every major news outlet, reporters with notepads, the low hum of speculation and anticipation. I sat at a table at the front of the room, Malcolm on one side of me, his associate on the other. My hands were folded in front of me, clasped tightly to keep them from shaking. Malcolm stood to address the crowd. "Thank you all for coming. My name is Malcolm Stone, and I'm representing Vincent Hunter in his divorce from Noah Archer. We've called this press conference today to address the false and defamatory statements Mr. Archer has made regarding my client. Vincent will be making a statement, after which we'll take a limited number of questions." He sat down, and I felt his hand briefly touch my shoulder, a gesture of support that steadied me. I leaned forward to the microphone. "My name is Vincent Hunter. For 5 years I was married to Noah Archer. For 5 years I believed in the lie of our marriage, in the man he pretended to be. Today I'm here to share the truth." I took a breath, then continued. Noah Archer has been having an affair with Frederick Castellano for the entirety of our marriage. He deliberately exposed me to a sexually transmitted disease and attempted to hide his diagnosis from me. When I finally refused to continue being intimate with him, he became violent and attempted to sexually assault me in our home. I have video and audio evidence of all of these things. The room exploded with noise, shouted questions, camera flashes, the rustling of papers. Malcolm held up a hand for silence. We will now show you selected evidence. Due to the graphic nature of some of this content, we advise viewer discretion. The screen behind us flickered to life. First, audio from the hotel room. Noah's voice, clear and unmistakable, discussing me with contempt while telling Frederick he'd never divorce me. Then, footage from the doctor's office. Noah being informed of his STD and choosing to hide it. Finally, edited footage from the assault, enough to show Noah's aggression and my clear refusal, but stopping before it became too invasive. The room was utterly silent when the footage ended. These recordings, Malcolm said into the quiet, are only a fraction of the evidence we have. Mr. Archer has not only betrayed his spouse and violated his trust, he has committed criminal acts of assault and deliberate disease transmission. We have already provided copies of all evidence to law enforcement, and charges are pending. I watched the reporters' faces, saw shock, disgust, and sympathy in equal measure. This was it, the moment Noah's carefully constructed image shattered beyond repair. I'm sharing this not for revenge, I said, my voice steady now, but because Noah Archer is a predator. He manipulates, abuses, and destroys anyone who threatens his perfect public image. I refuse to be another silent victim. And I refuse to let him do this to anyone else. The aftermath was explosive. Within hours, the hashtag #IStandWithVincent was trending. Major news outlets picked up the story, playing the recordings on repeat. Social media erupted with support for me and calls for Noah's arrest. Noah tried to fight back, releasing another statement claiming the evidence was doctored, that I'd set him up. But the truth was undeniable. Tech experts verified the authenticity of the recordings. Witnesses came forward, hotel staff who'd seen Noah and Frederick together, colleagues who'd suspected the affair. 1 week after the press conference, Noah Archer was arrested at his office in front of dozens of employees and reporters. The charges: assault, attempted rape, deliberate disease transmission, and, after further investigation revealed my suspicions were correct, embezzlement from Archer Enterprises. Frederick Castellano was arrested as an accomplice to the financial crimes. I watched the footage of Noah being led away in handcuffs from the safety of Malcolm's office, where I'd been staying to avoid the media circus outside. My home. How do you feel? Malcolm asked softly, standing beside me. Free, I whispered. For the first time in years, in lives, I feel free. The divorce proceedings were fast-tracked given the criminal charges. Noah tried every legal maneuver possible to delay or dismiss, but with the mountain of evidence against him, he had no leverage. 3 months after the press conference, I stood in a courtroom and heard a judge grant my divorce. The marriage between Vincent Hunter and Noah Archer is hereby dissolved. All assets are to be divided according to the settlement agreement, with the marital home and 70% of joint assets awarded to Mr. Hunter as compensation for damages suffered during the marriage. I didn't want Noah's money, but Malcolm had convinced me to accept the settlement. You deserve compensation for what he put you through. Use it to build a new life. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, but Malcolm expertly guided me through the crowd to his car. Once we were safely inside, I let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for months, for years really. It's over, I said wonderingly. It's actually over. The divorce is finalized, Malcolm agreed, pulling out into traffic. The criminal trial starts next month. Are you prepared for that? I'll testify if needed, I said firmly. Whatever it takes to make sure he faces consequences. Malcolm glanced at me, something warm in his expression. You've become so strong through this process. I don't think you realize how remarkable you are. The compliment made heat rise to my cheeks. Over the past few months, as Malcolm had fought tirelessly on my behalf, as he'd been there for every breakdown and every victory, something had shifted between us. The professional distance had remained, but beneath it, I felt a connection I hadn't expected. I couldn't have done any of this without you, I said softly. Yes, you could have, Malcolm replied. I just helped facilitate what you'd already set in motion. Vincent, you saved yourself. Don't forget that. The criminal trial lasted 3 weeks. Noah's defense team tried to paint him as the victim of entrapment, claimed I'd manufactured evidence, suggested I was mentally unstable. None of it worked. When I took the stand and calmly recounted everything, the affair, the disease, the assault, I saw Noah's facade finally crack. His rage showed through, his true nature visible to everyone in that courtroom. The jury deliberated for 4 hours before returning with their verdict. Guilty on all charges. Noah Archer was sentenced to 8 years in prison for assault, attempted rape and embezzlement. Frederick Castellano received 3 years as an accomplice to the financial crimes. I sat in the courtroom gallery, Malcolm beside me, and felt a weight lift from my soul that I'd been carrying across 2 lifetimes. Justice. Finally, justice. 6 months after the trial, I sat in a cafe near Malcolm's office waiting. We'd been meeting regularly, ostensibly to finalize the last details of my case, but really I suspect it because neither of us wanted to stop seeing each other. The divorce had a mandatory waiting period before I could legally pursue a new relationship. That period had ended yesterday. Malcolm arrived exactly on time as always, sliding into the seat across from me with a coffee in hand. He looked tired, he'd been working a difficult case, but his face lit up when he saw me. "You look happy," he observed. "I am happy," I replied. "For the first time in longer than I can remember, I'm genuinely happy. I'm free, I'm safe, and I'm starting to figure out who I am outside of Noah's shadow." "Who are you, Vincent?" Malcolm asked, leaning forward with genuine curiosity. I thought about it. I'm someone stronger than I thought I was. Someone who survived the impossible and came out the other side. Someone who's ready to start living again instead of just surviving. Malcolm smiled, and it transformed his usually serious face into something beautiful. "I'm glad. You deserve happiness, Vincent. You deserve everything good this world has to offer." "So do you," I said softly. "Malcolm, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "The mandatory waiting period ended yesterday. I'm legally free to pursue a new relationship." I watched his expression carefully, my heart hammering. "I was wondering if you might be interested in having dinner with me. Not as my lawyer. As something else." Malcolm was quiet for a long moment, his blue eyes searching my face. "Vincent, I need you to be sure. You've been through an enormous trauma. Sometimes people develop feelings for those who help them through difficult times, but those feelings don't always last once the crisis is over." "I know that," I said. "And if you want to wait longer to give me more time to be sure, I understand. But Malcolm, I've had months to think about this. Months to separate gratitude from genuine feeling. What I feel for you isn't about the case or what you did for me professionally. It's about who you are as a person. Your kindness, your integrity, the way you see me as someone worthy of protection and respect. I want to explore this if you do." Malcolm reached across the table, taking my hand in his. The touch was electric, sending warmth through my entire body. "I've wanted to ask you out since the day the divorce was finalized," he admitted. "But I was trying to be professional. Trying to give you space to heal. Vincent Hunter, I would be honored to take you to dinner. Not as your lawyer, but as a man who is very interested in getting to know you better." I smiled, squeezing his hand. "Then it's a date." Our first official date was at a small Italian restaurant Malcolm knew, tucked away from the busy downtown streets. It was intimate and quiet, with candles on each table and soft music playing. "I haven't done this in a while," I admitted as we studied the menus. "Dating, I mean. Noah and I got together when I was so young, 24. I've been out of the game for a long time." "So have I," Malcolm said. "My last serious relationship ended 5 years ago. I threw myself into work after that. Honestly, I'd convinced myself I was fine alone." He looked up from his menu, meeting my eyes. "Then you walked into my office and everything changed." "Really?" I asked, surprised and pleased. "Really? Vincent, you were terrified but determined. You'd been through hell but you hadn't let it break you. I think I started falling for you that very first day, even though I knew it was inappropriate to even think about." My breath caught. "Falling for me?" Malcolm set down his menu, giving me his full attention. "I don't say things I don't mean. Yes, falling for you. Over these past months, watching you grow stronger, seeing you reclaim your life. Vincent, you're extraordinary. And now that the professional barriers are down, I don't want to hide how I feel anymore." I reached across the table, taking his hand. "I'm falling for you too. Maybe I have been since the beginning. You made me feel safe when I thought I'd never feel safe again. You believed me when I needed it most. Malcolm, you saved me in ways that have nothing to do with the law." He turned his hand over, lacing our fingers together. "We saved each other, I think. You reminded me why I became a lawyer in the first place, to help people who truly need it, to fight for justice. I'd gotten cynical over the years, but you gave me back my purpose." The dinner was wonderful, The food delicious, the conversation flowing easily as we talked about everything from our childhoods to our favorite books to our dreams for the future. But what I remember most was the way Malcolm looked at me like I was someone precious. Someone valuable. After dinner, Malcolm walked me to my car. The night air was cool, the city lights twinkling around us. "I don't want this evening to end," I admitted. "Neither do I." Malcolm stepped closer, his hand coming up to cup my cheek. "Vincent, may I kiss you?" The fact that he asked, that he sought my consent even for something as simple as a kiss, made my heart swell. "Yes," I whispered. "Please." He leaned in slowly, giving me every opportunity to change my mind, before his lips finally met mine. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, a question being asked and answered. Then it deepened, and I felt heat spread through my body, desire awakening in ways I hadn't experienced in years. My hands came up to grip his jacket, pulling him closer. Malcolm's arms wrapped around me, strong and secure, making me feel safe and wanted in equal measure. When we finally pulled apart, both of us breathing heavily, he rested his forehead against mine. "I've wanted to do that for so long," he murmured. "So have I," I replied, smiling. "Malcolm, I know we should probably take things slow." "We should," he agreed. "But I don't want to." I met his eyes directly. "I've spent years being careful, being afraid, denying myself what I wanted. I don't want to do that anymore. If you want me, I'm yours." Malcolm's eyes darkened with desire, but his voice was gentle. "I want you, Vincent. More than I can express. But I need you to be sure. Not just about wanting me, about being ready for intimacy again after everything Noah did to you." The concern in his voice, the way he prioritized my well-being over his own desire, made me love him even more. Because yes, I realized with sudden clarity, I loved him. "I'm sure," I said firmly. "What Noah did to me was about power and control. What I want with you is about trust and connection. I'm ready, Malcolm. I'm ready to reclaim this part of myself." He searched my face for a long moment, then nodded. "My place is closer. If you're sure." "I'm sure." Malcolm's apartment was elegant but lived in, with law books lining the shelves and comfortable furniture that spoke of a man who valued quality over flash. We barely made it through the door before we were kissing again, hands exploring, clothes being shed in a trail leading to his bedroom. In bed, Malcolm was reverent. His hands mapped every inch of my skin like I was something sacred, something to be cherished. When he paused to ask, "Is this okay?" or, "Do you want me to stop?" I fell a little deeper in love with his careful consideration. "Don't stop," I whispered, pulling him closer. "Malcolm, please, I need you." What followed was a revelation. Malcolm made love to me with a tenderness I'd never experienced, his focus entirely on my pleasure, on making me feel safe and desired. When I gasped his name, when pleasure crashed through me in waves, he held me through it, whispering how beautiful I was, how perfect. Afterward, we lay tangled together, my head on his chest as his fingers traced lazy patterns on my back. That was... I couldn't find words adequate to describe it. "Perfect," Malcolm finished softly. "You're perfect, Vincent." "No," I said with a smile. "But I'm working on being whole again. And you're helping me get there." Over the next year, Malcolm and I built a relationship based on honesty, trust, and genuine affection. Everything my marriage to Noah had lacked. We took our time getting to know each other, but the connection between us only deepened. I went back to school, pursuing a degree in social work with a focus on domestic violence survivors. My experience, as painful as it had been, had given me unique insight into helping others escape abusive situations. Malcolm supported my goals completely, often helping me study or listening as I worked through difficult concepts. In turn, I became his safe place, the person he came home to after difficult cases, who reminded him of the good he was doing in the world. One evening, about 18 months after our first date, Malcolm made dinner for us at his apartment. Our apartment now, since I'd officially moved in 3 months prior. After we'd eaten, he took my hand and led me to the living room. "Vincent, there's something I want to talk to you about," he began, his expression serious. My heart clenched slightly. "Is everything okay?" "Everything is perfect," he assured me quickly. "That's actually what I want to discuss. Vincent, this past year and a half with you has been the happiest of my life. You've taught me what it means to truly love someone, not the superficial version Noah tried to fake, but the real thing. Partnership, support, genuine affection and respect." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, and my breath caught. "I know marriage might be a complicated concept for you after everything you've been through," Malcolm continued, opening the box to reveal a simple platinum band. And I don't need a piece of paper to know I want to spend the rest of my life with you. But if you're willing, if you're ready, Vincent Hunter, will you marry me? Tears streamed down my face as I looked at this incredible man who had saved me, supported me, and loved me so completely. Yes, I whispered. Yes, Malcolm, I'll marry you. He slipped the ring onto my finger, then pulled me into his arms, kissing me deeply. When we finally pulled apart, I was laughing through my tears. I never thought I'd want to get married again, I admitted. After Noah, I thought that part of my life was over. Noah gave you a distorted version of what marriage should be, Malcolm said gently. Let me show you what it's supposed to look like. Let me spend every day proving that love doesn't have to hurt. I stood in the backyard of our home. Malcolm's apartment had long since been traded for a house with a garden where we could host the barbecues Malcolm loved, watching as our friends and chosen family mingled. Patricia from Malcolm's office was arguing good-naturedly with my college friend Sarah about the best way to grill vegetables. Malcolm's brother was showing off pictures of his new baby. Malcolm came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist and resting his chin on my shoulder. Happy? He murmured. Incredibly, I replied, leaning back against him. You know, sometimes I still can't believe this is my life now. Believe it, Malcolm said, pressing a kiss to my neck. You fought for this, Vincent. You survived the impossible and built something beautiful from the ashes. This life, this happiness, you earned it. I turned in his arms, looking up at the man who had become my everything. I couldn't have done it without you. We did it together, he corrected. And we'll keep building together. Whatever the future brings. As the sun set over our backyard, over the life we'd created together, I thought about the man I'd been in my first life, naive, trusting, destroyed. I thought about the man I'd become in my second chance, strategic, determined, free. But mostly I thought about the man I was now, loved, secure, and finally happy. Noah had tried to destroy me twice. Once with death, once with cruelty. He'd failed both times. Because I'd learned the most important lesson. Survival isn't just about escaping your abuser. It's about reclaiming your life, building something new, and finding the courage to love again. And I had done all three. As Malcolm pulled me into a kiss, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about us, I sent up a silent prayer of thanks, to whatever force had given me a second chance, and to the strength I'd found within myself to take it. This time I didn't just survive. I thrived. The house was finally quiet. Our guests had left an hour ago, the last of them, Sarah and her wife, hugging us goodbye at the door with promises to do this again soon. Malcolm was in the kitchen, finishing the dishes despite my protest that we could leave them until morning. I stood in the doorway watching him work. Even doing something as mundane as washing wine glasses, Malcolm was beautiful to me. The way his sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, revealing strong forearms. The slight furrow of concentration between his brows. The silver threading through his dark hair that caught the light. 3 years. We'd been together 3 years, married for 1, and I still found myself stopping sometimes just to look at him, to remind myself this was real. You're staring, Malcolm said without turning around, amusement in his voice. Can you blame me? I moved into the kitchen, sliding my arms around his waist from behind. My husband is very attractive. Malcolm chuckled, setting down the glass he'd been drying. Your husband is covered in dish soap and smells like barbecue smoke. Sexy, I teased, pressing a kiss to the back of his neck. He turned in my arms, and the playfulness in his expression shifted into something warmer, more intense. His hands came up to cup my face, thumbs stroking my cheekbones. Have I told you today how much I love you? Only about 5 times, I replied, smiling. But I'll never get tired of hearing it. I love you, Vincent Hunter Stone. He said our joined last name with particular emphasis, the way he always did, like he was still amazed I'd chosen to take his name. I love you more than I have words to express. Then show me, I whispered, rising on my toes to kiss him. The kiss started gentle, familiar. We'd kissed thousands of times by now. But then Malcolm's hands moved to my hips, pulling me flush against him, and the kiss deepened. Heat bloomed in my chest, spreading through my body as his tongue traced the seam of my lips. Requesting entrance I was more than happy to grant. I threaded my fingers through his hair, holding him close as we kissed like we hadn't seen each other in weeks instead of minutes. Malcolm walked me backward until my back hit the refrigerator, his body pressing against mine, and I gasped into his mouth. Bedroom? I managed between kisses. Malcolm, please? Are you sure? He asked, pulling back slightly to search my face. Even after 3 years he always checked, always made sure I was truly ready. It was one of the 1,000 things I loved about him. You seemed tired earlier. I'm not too tired for this, I assured him, pulling him back into another kiss. I want you. I always want you. Something flickered in his eyes. Desire, yes, but also that tender affection that made my heart swell. Upstairs, he agreed, taking my hand. Our bedroom was bathed in soft moonlight filtering through the curtains. Malcolm closed the door behind us. Unnecessary since we were alone, but the gesture felt intimate somehow, like we were creating our own private world. He turned to me and for a moment we just looked at each other. Then he stepped forward, hands gentle as they began unbuttoning my shirt. You were amazing today, he said softly, focused on his task. The way you handled Sarah's questions about your work with the shelter. The way you made everyone feel welcome. Vincent, you have this incredible gift of making people feel seen and safe. Malcolm. My voice caught as he pushed the shirt off my shoulders. I mean it. He pressed a kiss to my collarbone, then my shoulder, working his way across my skin with deliberate care. I'm so proud of the man you've become. So grateful I get to be part of your life. I pulled at his shirt, needing to feel his skin against mine. Malcolm helped me remove it and then we were pressed together, chest to chest, heart to heart. I could feel his warmth, his strength, and underneath it all, his genuine love for me. Make love to me, I whispered against his lips. Please, Malcolm. I need to feel close to you. His response was to kiss me deeply, hands moving to the waistband of my jeans. We undressed each other slowly, taking our time, exchanging kisses and soft touches as each piece of clothing fell away. By the time we were both bare, I was trembling with want. Malcolm guided me to the bed, laying me down with such gentleness that tears pricked at my eyes. How different this was from my first marriage, where intimacy had been obligation or manipulation. With Malcolm it was always about connection, pleasure, love. He stretched out beside me, one hand tracing patterns on my chest, down my stomach, making me shiver. Tell me what you want, he murmured. Tell me how to make you feel good. Touch me, I breathed. I just want your hands on me. Want to feel you everywhere. Malcolm obliged, his touch both tender and purposeful. His hands mapped my body like he was memorizing it all over again, down my sides, across my hips, along my thighs. When his fingers finally wrapped around me, I arched into the touch with a gasp. So responsive, he murmured appreciatively, his strokes slow and deliberate. So beautiful like this, Vincent. Do you have any idea what you do to me? I reached for him in turn, wanting him to feel the same pleasure he was giving me. Malcolm groaned softly when I touched him, his hips moving into my hand. For long minutes we simply explored each other, hands and mouths, kisses and caresses, building the heat between us gradually. Malcolm knew my body intimately now, knew exactly where to touch to make me gasp, where to kiss to make me moan. And I knew his just as well, knew the spot on his neck that made him shiver, the way he liked his back stroked, how he responded when I whispered his name. I need you, I finally said, pulling him closer. Malcolm, please? Are you sure? He asked again, ever careful. We can take more time. I'm sure, I insisted, kissing him firmly. I want to feel you. Want us to be as close as possible. Malcolm reached for the bedside drawer, preparing carefully. He was always so attentive, always made sure I was comfortable and ready. When he finally positioned himself above me, his eyes locked with mine. I love you, he said softly. More than anything in this world. I love you too, I whispered back. Show me. As we joined together, I closed my eyes against the overwhelming sensation of closeness, of intimacy, of being completely vulnerable with someone who would never hurt me. Malcolm moved slowly at first, giving me time to adjust, his lips pressing kisses to my face, my neck, murmuring words of love and praise. Perfect, he breathed. You feel perfect, Vincent. Like you were made for me. I wrapped my legs around his waist, pulling him deeper, and we both groaned at the sensation. Malcolm's movements became more purposeful, finding a rhythm that had me clinging to his shoulders, gasping his name. That's it, he encouraged, one hand moving between us to stroke me in time with his movements. Let me hear you. Let me know how good this feels. So good, I managed, pleasure building with every thrust. Malcolm, you feel so good. He captured my mouth in a deep kiss, swallowing my moans as he moved faster, deeper. I could feel my climax building, that exquisite tension coiling tighter and tighter. Come for me, Malcolm whispered against my lips. Want to feel you. Want to watch you fall apart. His words, combined with a particularly perfect angle, sent me over the edge. I cried out his name as pleasure crashed through me in waves, my body tightening around him. Malcolm followed moments later, his own release shuddering through him as he buried his face in my neck. We stayed like that for long moments, both of us breathing heavily, hearts racing in sync. Then Malcolm carefully withdrew, reaching for tissues to clean us both before gathering me into his arms. I curled against his chest, one hand over his heart, feeling its steady beat beneath my palm. "I love you so much," I whispered. Malcolm's arms tightened around me. "I love you too. Thank you for trusting me. For letting me love you this way." "Thank you for being someone worthy of that trust," I replied, tilting my head up to kiss his jaw. "For showing me what real love looks like." He stroked my hair gently and I felt myself starting to drift, warm and safe and completely content. This was home, I thought drowsily. Not the house we lived in, but this. Malcolm's arms, his steady heartbeat, the knowledge that I was loved completely and unconditionally. "Sweet dreams, my love," Malcolm murmured, pressing a kiss to my forehead. "Stay with me," I whispered, even though I knew he would never leave. "Always," he promised. "Always and forever, Vincent. You're stuck with me now." I smiled against his chest, letting my eyes close. "Good. That's exactly where I want to be." As sleep claimed me, wrapped in the arms of the man who had helped me reclaim my life, I felt nothing but gratitude, for second chances, for justice served, for finding real love after surviving the counterfeit version. This was my epilogue. Not just survival but joy. Not just escape but home. And it was perfect,